Let's talk about running your most important mission-critical applications, something like SAP HANA. The stakes are just incredibly high. You need amazing performance, you need it to be rock solid, and you need to move at the speed of business. But to get there, we really have to start with a pretty basic question. Why in the world is the foundation for your most critical software so ridiculously complicated and expensive? Well, the answer, as it turns out, usually lies in how it was all put together in the first place. Think about it like this. Traditional IT is kind of like trying to build a skyscraper, but the compute team, the storage team, and the networking team, they all work in their own separate little worlds. They've got their own hardware, their own management tools, and honestly, they don't always communicate. And the result? A system that's super rigid, incredibly complex, and just slow to change and expensive to keep running. And that brings us right to the heart of the matter, this whole problem with IT silos. This old school way of doing things, with separate, dedicated hardware for compute, and then for storage, and then for networking, it just creates this massive tangled web of complexity. It's just not agile enough for the kinds of demands a modern application like SAP HANA puts on it. So what if we could just tear down those silos? What if there was a radically simpler solution? Well, that's exactly what the HCI approach is all about. This is Hyperconverged Infrastructure, or HCI for short. And trust me, it's a complete game changer. It takes compute, storage, and networking and smashes them all together into one single software-defined system. And the best part? It runs on the industry-standard servers you probably already have. All that complexity just gets handled by smart software. So this diagram here really shows you the new blueprint. Down at the bottom, you've just got your standard hardware. But on top of that, there's a single integrated VMware software stack that handles literally everything. All the intelligence moves out of that expensive, complex hardware and lives inside the sleek, streamlined software layer. So, what does this actually mean for running something like SAP HANA? Well, the benefits are huge. Storage becomes ridiculously simple. I'm talking 2 clicks to get it going. You get this amazing elastic scalability, which means you can start small and just grow as you need to, without these massive upfront costs. And all of that leads to a much lower total cost of ownership, and you don't need a whole army of specialized storage gurus to manage it. Okay, so how does all this magic actually work? Let's pop the hood for a second and take a look at the engine that powers this whole solution, VMware vSAN. At its core, vSAN is just beautifully elegant. It looks at all the local storage disks, the SSDs and NVMe drives right inside each server, and it pulls them all together into one giant, super high-performance data store that every single server in the cluster can share. This completely gets rid of the need for a separate, crazy expensive storage array. Now, this slide shows a really key evolution in vSAN. Over on the left, you've got what we call the original storage architecture, or OSA. It used separate layers for caching and for capacity. But on the right, that's the new hotness, the Express Storage Architecture, or ESA. It's a much simpler single-tier design that's built from the ground up for today's crazy fast NVMe flash storage. The main takeaway here is really simple. The new vSAN ESA is a huge leap forward. It's simpler because there are fewer moving parts, it's way faster because it's optimized for NVMe, and it's more cost-effective. It lets you use advanced data protection, like RAID 5 or 6, but with the performance you'd expect from RAID 1. Seriously, for any new SAP HANA deployment, ESA is absolutely the way to go. All this tech is fantastic, right? But what does it actually mean for the business? Let's talk about the real-world payoff. We mentioned elastic scalability before, and this table really shows it in action. You can start off with a pretty small SAP HANA virtual machine, and then as your needs grow, you can scale it all the way up to a monster 4-socket VM with over 8 terabytes of RAM. What this means is you only use, and you only pay for, the resources you actually need, right when you need them. And that kind of scalability, it translates directly into business agility. When your infrastructure is defined by software, you can deploy and run new SAP HANA instances so much faster, all on a platform that's built for speed from the get-go. And of course, it all comes down to the bottom line, doesn't it? By completely getting rid of that expensive dedicated storage hardware and just leveraging the economics of standard servers, you dramatically lower your total cost of ownership. You're cutting down on your initial spending and your day-to-day operational costs. It's a win-win. But this isn't just about making things better for today. Adopting HCI is really about building a data center that's ready for whatever comes next. Just look at this journey for a second. Back in 2013, we were all dealing with spinning hard drives, slow networking, and relatively small VMs. Now, flash forward to today, and it's all about high-speed flash, 100 gigabit networking, and massive workloads that stretch from our own data centers into the public cloud. This software-defined approach is what actually lets you keep up with that incredible pace of innovation. So ultimately, what we're really seeing here is a fundamental shift. The foundation of the modern data center is no longer a bunch of rigid, specialized hardware. It's flexible, intelligent software. And that leaves us with one last thought. When your infrastructure is as flexible and dynamic as software, all those old limitations, they just melt away. The question isn't what can you build anymore, it's what can't you?